Hello students, this is Dr. Sujata Magdum, Assistant Professor in Zoology, KTHM College, Nashik. Today, I'll be discussing biological buffers for TYBSc students who have opted biological chemistry as one of their subject. Now, you are well acquainted with Introduction to Biological Chemistry, in which we have discussed about the various bonds like covalent bond, non-covalent bond, then hydrogen bond, hydrophobic bond, electrostatic attractions and van der Waals forces. And we have understood the significance of these bonds in maintaining the three-dimensional structure of macromolecules. Further, we discussed about the structure of water, its physicochemical properties, and followed by that, we discussed about pH and buffer. Now, in today's lecture, I'll be briefing you the introductory part of biological buffer. You all are familiar with the fact that buffers are the solutions which try to resist change in the pH, right? Now, these buffers, as they are resisting change in pH, we can say the capacity to maintain this is called as buffering capacity. Or if I want to describe the formation of buffer, I can say it can be made by mixing a weak acid with its conjugate base. Now let us consider one example of acetate buffer which is made by the conjugation of or by mixing of the mild glacial acetic acid with that of its conjugate base, that is sodium acetate. Now in this acetate buffer, if we are trying to add acid or an alkali, we would like to see what is its effect. Now let us consider the equation where we have the sodium acetate. If it is subjected with addition of HCl, then that will lead to formation of mild acid, that is the acetic acid, and NaCl will be formed. In the same manner, if I try to add NaCl to my acetate buffer, then the acetic acid which is present into my acetate buffer will react with NaCl, leading to formation of sodium acetate and water. As a result of this, even if I am adding acid or an alkali, then the pH of my solution, it remains constant, or the pH is its change, we can say, is minimized. Hence, such solutions which resist the change in the pH are called as buffer. Now, why are we understanding this buffer is we are correlating the situation in our body, that is into the living system. You know that living system is made up of the fluid connective tissue, that is blood, and the various different tissues into the body is flooded into interstitial fluid. Hence, the bodily fluid, that is blood as well as interstitial fluid, its pH needs to be maintained, or there has to be homeostasis. This is very essential so that all the enzyme or the metabolic activities which are seen occurring within the body, it should get smoothly done without any damage to the cell. Therefore, now with that concept, we are going to discuss the buffers into the system, and therefore we will concentrate on the introductory part of biological buffers. Further, in case of blood, you know, it is made up of fluid part, that is plasma, in which there are large number of blood cells freely suspended. The plasma pH ranges between 7.38 to 7.42, whereas the pH of the interstitial fluid, it ranges between 7.38 to 7.42 plus minus 0.05 units. Now, if the condition is somewhat different to the normal range, which I just stated, that is, if it is more than 7.42 or if it is less than 7.38, then what is the clinical condition? So the clinical condition is defined as acidosis if the pH falls down below or you can say if it is below to 7.38. In the same manner, if the condition is alkalosis, therein we can say that the pH of the plasma or interstitial fluid will be more than 7.42. You know that normal body functions and the metabolism, it generates large quantity of acids and these are neutralized and they are eliminated time to time. If this is not done, then the body pH will be imbalanced. Therefore, it is very essential that whenever there is metabolism which is seen occurring within the cell and is generating the acids, it has to be neutralized or it has to be removed. The most common type of acid which is generated into the body is due to oxidation of food. That means whatever food we are taking in, it is converted into the simpler form. That is, carbohydrates get digested into the monomers, that is glucose. And this glucose, once again, when it reaches to different cells within the body, is utilized in generation of ATP. So when there is conversion of glucose to ATP, the byproduct is formed in the form of carbon dioxide and water. Same holds true with the other macromolecules of the food items, that is proteins and lipids. You should remember that the first source of energy which is used in converting itself into energy will be always carbohydrate, followed by that is the lipids, and followed by that will be the proteins. In all this situation, there has to be the oxidation of food which results into formation of byproducts in the form of carbon dioxide and water. So this carbon dioxide and water, as soon as it is formed, it has to be eliminated. Now, this process of elimination of carbon dioxide and water is by the lungs as well as kidney, right? The other type of acids which are generated into our body, they are the lactic acid, keto acids or other organic acids. But the amount of these lactic acid, keto acids or the organic acids are much more lesser as compared to carbon dioxide and water which is generated due to oxidation of food. As I mentioned that the system needs to be always purified by elimination of the byproduct which are generated into the body, and that is taken care by two important organs, that is lungs and kidney. Now these lungs and kidney, as I said, are involved in elimination of the byproduct. We can say it helps in regulating or maintaining the pH of the blood. Now, how does this lung and kidney perform their activity? The lungs, they help in flushing out of acid by exhaling the carbon dioxide, that is removing the carbon dioxide. Raising and lowering this respiratory rate alters the amount of carbon dioxide, and that is how it affects the pH within minutes. That means it helps in removing of carbon dioxide from the body in a very short span of time. Opposite to this, when we try to understand the action of kidney, which helps in excretion of acids in the urine, this is done by regulating the concentration of bicarbonates which are present into the blood by the process called as ultrafiltration, and this leads to formation of urine. When we talk about formation of urine and elimination by means of the action which is done by the kidney, it is time consuming as compared to what we could see with reference to the action shown by the lungs. And therefore, we can say that acid base changes due to increase or decrease in carbohydrate concentration occurs much more slower as compared to carbon dioxide, which is eliminated within few minutes, right? Then, now to understand the buffering system into body, let me take a pictorial example. You can see here there is the biological system which is bifurcated into two ways. The first column is defining the acidity, whereas the second column is defining the basicity. Now don't concentrate onto the lower side of the picture. Just say that if there is continuous addition of acid or the base to the system, what will happen? There will be increase in acidity or increase in alkalinity, right? And obviously, both increase in acidity or increase in alkalinity is harmful to the body, and it can lead to the disease which is called as acidosis or alkalosis. Now, what is acidosis? Acidosis refers to continuous rise in the acidic component within the body, whereas alkalosis is, we can say, there is continuous rise in the alkalinity into the body. So where exactly this acidity and alkalinity is been seen risen? It is seen risen into the plasma part of the blood or the interstitial fluid of the body. Obviously, if there is rise in acidic component or the basic component, we can say the clinical symptoms as the acidosis or the alkalosis. Now, opposite to this, if I want to maintain this acidosis and alkalosis, what should be done? Even if there is continuous addition of acid or base to the system, there should be continuous removal of this acid and base so that the minimal level will be maintained into the body, and this maintenance of minimal level of acid and base is done by the buffering system into the body. So what are the different buffering systems which are present into the body? That is, in case of blood, we have hemoglobin present into RBC, which tries to maintain the acidity or alkalinity of the plasma. Other than that, there are large number of plasma proteins which are also useful in helping in maintaining our acidosis level or acidic level or the basic level into the blood. Other than that, the carbon dioxide, bicarbonate and phosphate, these are also need to be regulated so that the plasma or the interstitial fluid present into the body, they are seen in some balanced proportion which will keep the body healthy, right? Now balance can be restored by maintaining this acidity or alkalinity by either draining out of the acid or the alkali either into the fast mode, or it could be done by the slow down effect, right? Now, these acid base disorders which are seen occurring into the body due to malfunctioning of the biological buffer leads to two different types of diseases related to the respiration and the metabolism, and thus we can categorize these acid base disorders as the respiratory acid base disorders or the metabolic acid base disorders. Respiratory acid base disorders are due to lung diseases or the conditions that affect the normal breathing. Now, this acid base disorders can further be classified as the respiratory acidosis or the respiratory alkalosis. Respiratory acidosis means there is low pH, and this is because of which there is if effect is due to the respiration and causes change in pH due to changes in the concentration of CO2, and therefore this type of disorder is called as respiratory disorder, respiratory acidosis. In the same manner, if I want to describe the respiratory alkalosis, we can say respiratory, this is a kind of respiratory acid based disorder wherein there is change in carbon dioxide concentration which is much more higher as compared to the normal range. The second type of acid-base disorder is metabolic acid-base disorder, which occurs due to malfunctioning of the kidney, or you can say if there is some kind of kidney disorder seen into the body. This leads to electrolyte disturbance, and as a result of which there is severe vomiting, diarrhea, or sometimes even by ingestion of certain drugs or toxins, there can be imbalance seen into the electrolyte, and therefore it can lead to metabolic acid base disorders. This also affects the normal metabolism. For example, even in case of diabetes, the metabolic acid base disorder can be seen occurring. The disorders that affects metabolism and causes change in pH due to either increase in acid production or base production can be categorized as the metabolic acidosis or the metabolic base alkalosis. Now let us see the causes of acidosis. As you know, acidosis is imbalance in the pH of blood which is caused by excess of acid. So it can be, as we are describing imbalance, it could be either low or it could be high. Now, depending on that, the acidosis can be distinguished as the respiratory acid base imbalance, as the respiratory acidosis and the respiratory alkalosis. In case of respiratory acidosis, there is reduction in carbon dioxide elimination, or in other words you can say the carbon dioxide is retained into the body itself. So as a result of which this is seen occurring because due to some kind of breathing disorders wherein the rate of breathing is decreased. Now why there is decrease in rate of breathing? It could be probably due to the drugs or due to malfunctioning of the nervous system, or in other words you can say there could be some nervous disorder. Then the second reason why there is reduction in carbon dioxide elimination is due to trauma or abnormal presence of air between the lungs and the wall of the chest, that is into the pneumothoracic region. The third reason why there could be reduced elimination of carbon dioxide could be some disorder related to the respiratory muscles or the respiratory nerve, and sometimes the blockage in the respiratory tract due to presence of some foreign particle can also lead to reduction in elimination of carbon dioxide. And apart from this, if there is some kind of lung infection, this can also lead to respiratory acidosis. I hope this is clear. Now we'll move on to the causes of respiratory alkalosis. Respiratory alkalosis, you all know, is increased carbon dioxide elimination, or there is imbalance of the presence of carbon dioxide within the body and the rate of elimination of carbon dioxide outside the body. This is only because of hyperventilation, which occurs due to anxiety, pain, or shock. There are certain drugs like aspirin. It also causes respiratory alkalosis if consumed or in a large quantity, or if there is a overdose of aspirin. Diseases like pneumonia or lung congestion due to heart failure or embolism can also lead to respiratory alkalosis. Moreover, excessive exercise can lead to large amount of elimination of carbon dioxide, and apart from that, certain diseases wherein the bodily cells are interacting with the pathogen and this interplay leads to development of fever, can also lead to increase of elimination of carbon dioxide from the body. Tumors in the central nervous system or the infection to the infection to the brain covering, that is meningitis or encephalitis, can also lead to respiratory alkalosis. Sometimes malfunctioning of the liver can lead to increased elimination of carbon dioxide, and subsequently we can say diarrhea as well as renal bicarbonate loss are the essential reasons which can lead to increased level of carbon dioxide elimination from the body. Now, in the same manner, we'll try to understand the causes of metabolic acidosis and metabolic alkalosis. Metabolic acidosis is decreased bicarbonates due to increased acid or loss of bicarbonate. Now, this condition is because of alcoholic ketoacidosis. It is because of diabetic ketoacidosis. It could be due to failure of kidneys, or it could be accumulation of lactic acid. Sometimes large doses of salicylates like aspirin, methanol, ethylene glycol can also lead to decrease in the bicarbonate level. That means there is more loss of bicarbonates from the body. Sometimes the gastrointestinal bicarbonate loss is observed due to prolonged condition of diarrhea, and renal bicarbonate loss is one of the acute reason for defining the metabolic acidosis into the human. In the same way, the metabolic alkalosis is defined as showing increased level of bicarbonates. This increased level of bicarbonate is due to loss of acid or gain of bicarbonate. Now this is achieved because of diuretics. That means whenever there is the drugs, its side effect is elimination or production of large quantity of urine. So you can say the copious urine which is formed due to drug is defined as diuretics. So this formation of large amount of urine and removal of urine can lead to loss of large quantity of acid from the body, and hence there can be increased level of bicarbonates observed. In the same way, if the condition is prolonged condition of vomiting is observed, that can lead to dehydration. Both the diuretic conditions as well as vomiting can lead to dehydration, and this is one of the cause of metabolic alkalosis. Diseases that cause loss of potassium is also responsible for metabolic alkalosis. Now, what are the signs and symptoms of this acidosis as well as alkalosis? We'll try to understand. If there is mild acidosis, it will not show any kind of symptoms, or sometimes a very negligible or feeble symptoms are seen associated with mild acidosis, which includes uh, development of fatigue condition or nausea or vomiting. But if the acidosis is acute, and then we can say there is increased rate and depth of breathing is much more increased. This can lead to the state called as confusion, and also sometimes headache is observed. This acute metabolic acidosis can also lead to seizures, coma, or sometimes it becomes lethal if remains untreated. The symptoms of alkalosis are due to association of potassium loss, and as this association of potassium loss is subjected to the condition of unconditional uh, you can say not unconditional, I should say, untreated vomiting or diarrhea, and that leads to too much loss of potassium ions from the bodily fluid, and this leads to irritability, weaknesses, and muscle cramp. Okay. Now, with this background, I'll stop for today's lecture, and tomorrow we'll study in details the different types of biological buffers which are present into our body. Thank you.